You're listening to Curious Cat, a podcast that examines a shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. I'm your host, Jennifer Hodes. Join me every week as I explore what it means to be a soul in a meat suit. Welcome to Curious Cat, Season 4. Looking backward, the theme of my July was cord cutting. And when I say cords, I'm talking thick titanium suckers. I've had to cut them, then recut them after they grew back little starter roots. Again and again, this happened. It can be exhausting and invigorating. I confess my old psychic vampire ways to you on a prior episode, which is why my daily routine now includes checking for voids and then reinforcing my vessel. It's a quick exercise that ensures I'm relying on my own light and my own energy and the light offered to me by my guides and angels consensually. Well, as the universe tends to do, it showed me this week that my path is always there, illuminated, waiting for me to notice, which led me to this moment where many things coalesced. Yes, welcome to Season 4 of Curious Cat. It was time to clear the decks, begin anew with an episode 1. So hooray! Second hooray! There's a new show feature I hope you'll love. And for weeks, when life is heavy enough, then fast forward to this new feature for a bit of fun, curiosity, light, and interesting stories that make you smile, and I hope feel inspired by the mystery all around us, just waiting to be noticed. This feature is called the Curious Q. It stands alone from the episode, so the flow of both are not interrupted. You'll hear it today after the regular closing music. Let me know what you think of it by clicking the Text the Show button at the top of the show notes. Third, I've got a special episode next week. It's a conversation with my eldest daughter, which I cannot wait for you to enjoy. They're the artists behind the episode art, and we got deep into Dark Night of the Soul. But with that episode in the bank, and I really thought that was going to be episode 1 of this 4th season, I wasn't even seeking another topic when I woke up from a dream that was about Archangel Michael. I texted my woo besties, Monique and Karen, and bam, I found out Michael is the king of cord cutting. Wow, the universe lined it up, didn't it? So let's get into it. Here's a little background information on Archangel Michael. I call it Archangel Michael 101. His nicknames are plentiful: leader of the army of God, chief prince of heaven, the great captain, Saint Michael the Archangel. He's featured in the Bible and the Quran. He's beloved by Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And in books that are not allowed to appear in the Bible, he's prominent in those. He was the angel who spoke to Moses at Mount Sinai, and he was shown with a sword in combat, triumphing over a dragon in the book of Revelation. From my precious soul sister, Molly, who is my resident angel expert, Michael is the angel of protection and self-care. The number associated with him is 6. His color is dark blue. Some say an electric fire blue. He is connected to the third eye chakra. He's associated with crystal lapis lazuli. He is associated with the direction of the south, and his scented oils. And I added that part about the directions because I do meditations with Steve Noble that are like ultra woo, and he always introduces Michael as coming from the south. But I interrupted myself. His energies are rosemary, lavender, sandalwood, jasmine, and wintergreen. If you love yoga and want to connect with Archangel Michael, try the Mountain Salute. Molly offers a message from him as well. Quote, rest assured when you call on Michael, you will be well protected. Listen closely to his message on self-care. Ignoring his subtle messages will only lead to a stronger message. Let go and trust that Michael has your back. Oh my gosh, I have goosebumps. Always, but especially now. Isn't it nice to know we have him guarding our backs? He said to command all of the angels and to be the patron saint of soldiers. His feast day is observed in the West on September 29th. Here's more on Archangel Michael that I found from learnreligions.com. Quote, Archangel Michael is the only angel mentioned by name in all three of the major sacred religious texts that place the most emphasis on angels: the Torah, Judaism, the Bible, Christianity, and the Quran for Islam. In each of these faiths, believers consider Michael a leading angel who fights evil with the power of good. From Llewellyn.com, author Richard Webster writes, quote, Michael strives to create peace and harmony in the world and watches over people who seek to have God in their lives. He looks after our physical, emotional, and psychic well-being. He protects us whenever necessary. He also gives us courage and strength when we need it and enables us to follow our truth without compromising our integrity, end quote. In religious art, Michael exemplifies these qualities. He's usually depicted with a sword to symbolize courage and strength. He frequently holds the scales of justice or a blue flame of protection. I found this interesting tidbit from Learn Religions as well. Quote, the comfort that Michael provides us is especially helpful for dying people, and some people, such as Catholics, believe that Michael is the angel of death who escorts the souls of faithful people into the afterlife. Wow, I found this intriguing because until the last couple weeks, I've never felt good enough to call on Michael for whatever reason. I have dear friends that turn to him first, and I was always a little bit envious of their relationship with this archangel, if I'm being honest. Then after a recent dream, I realized he's been with me all along. Oh my gosh, it's a story of my life. These angels are like, you didn't have to know my name, but I was here doing these things. I just had to push aside my own negative self-talk to recognize this truth. As I searched Michael, I found this from author and podcaster Julie Jancis that's spot on per my experience. Here's the quote. Friend, despite his fierce appearance, always with a sword in his hand, Archangel Michael does not wage wars in the sky. The wars he wages are with your mind. End quote. Whew, my mind is blown. I needed to hear that again. If you're wondering when to call on Michael for help, Julie Jancis says, quote, Archangel Michael works with every human on earth. He wants you to call on him every time you need support, end quote. God often sends Michael to help people who are facing urgent needs during a crisis, believers say. Quote, you can call on Michael in an emergency and receive instant help, writes Richard Webster in his book, Michael, Communicating with the Archangel for Guidance and Protection. No matter what type of protection you need, Michael is ready and willing to provide it, no matter what sort of situation you find yourself in. Michael will give you the necessary courage and strength to deal with it. End quote. Oh, and when you ask for help from him or any angel or guide, be sure to say a kind, heartfelt thank you. Pope Leo XIII wrote a formal prayer to Saint Michael in the year 1886. Here it goes, quote, Saint Michael, the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, thrust into hell Satan and all evil spirits who wander through the world for the ruin of souls. Amen. End of quote. Here's how to recognize that Archangel Michael is with you. And I usually need a drumming over the top of my head to even notice it. Julie Jancis, in her book, Angels and Awakenings, writes, quote, when you feel Archangel Michael's energy, it is massive. You can feel an expansion into all that is, end quote. Oh, I adore that last statement. From learnreligions.com, quote, Michael is an exceptionally strong angel who protects and defends people who love God. He is powerfully concerned about truth and justice. Believers say Michael communicates boldly with people when he helps and guides them. Here's how to recognize signs of Michael's possible presence with you. In her book, The Miracles of Archangel Michael, Doreen Virtue writes that people may see Michael's aura nearby or hear his voice audibly speaking to them during a crisis. Quote, Archangel Michael's aura color is a royal purple that's so bright it looks like cobalt blue, end quote. Virtue further notes that many people report seeing Michael's blue lights in a crisis and hearing Michael's voice loud and clear. But no matter how Michael chooses to manifest, he usually announces his presence clearly, writes Virtue. More than seeing the actual angel, most people see evidence of Michael's presence. He's a very clear communicator, and you're likely to hear his guidance in your mind or sense it as a gut feeling. That's actually how I get him. More from Learn Religions. Michael is concerned chiefly with protection, truth, integrity, courage, and strength. If you're having difficulty in any of these areas, Michael is the angel to summon, writes Webster, in Michael communicating with the Archangel for guidance and protection. He notes that when Michael is nearby, you might find his image vividly forming in your mind or feel a comforting or warming sensation. Michael will be glad to give you comforting signs of his protection that you can recognize, writes Virtue. Since Archangel Michael is a protector, his signs are designed to comfort and to reassure. He wants you to know that he's with you and that he hears your prayers and questions. If you don't trust or notice the signs that he sends, he'll communicate his message in a different way. The Archangel appreciates your candor with him. Whoa. Boy, I've given him some candor lately, and he's happy to help you recognize the signs. Here's more on those signs. Like other angels, Michael may choose to show you flashes of light when he's around, but Michael will combine that spectacle with substantial guidance that he gives you, such as through your dreams, writes Chantel Lizette in her book, The Angel Code, Your Interactive Guide to Angelic Communication. For instance, Michael may signal his presence through subtle flashes of light or more established connections like clairaudience or dreams. Dreams are the best way to communicate with me lately. I seem to miss most of the other signs, though numbers also capture my attention. Here's more from Chantel Lizette. She cautions readers to maintain grounded perspectives when interpreting angelic signs and to approach them with open minds. This means not obsessing over deciphering potential meanings. And it's hard not to, right? But she says, quote, at the very foundation, they really only mean one thing, that your angels are walking beside you every step of the way as you journey through life, end quote. Some say Michael comes as a warming sensation or vivid visions. For me, he comes in the form of scent, the scent of vanilla. I mentioned Julie Jancis's book, Angels and Awakenings, earlier. It's a type of workbook, and I'd done the exercise in the Michael section a good 2 years ago, but I feel compelled to share my answers just in case it helps to encourage you to connect or listen more carefully to the messages you're receiving. So in love, here's the response I had to a question that asked Archangel Michael, what are the top 3 egoic-minded thoughts you're helping me to release? So I wrote, I'm not enough, I don't deserve fill in the blank, and I will never amount to anything. It's hard to read that again. But there it is, my uglies. It's the truth of me. Here's the next question and response. The question was, what would you like me to know to help me on my journey now? And the response I received from Michael was this: it is done. You cannot stray. Just breathe, laugh, live, listen, ask. It is, has always been. Oh, I needed a reminder of that. I hope it helps you to remember that you are cherished. You are worth a powerful angel's help. I love you. Did you know that Michael is thought to be the twin brother of Lucifer? It kind of makes sense when you learn that his number is 6. Wow, that's really interesting. It just kind of dawned upon me. But from Gods and Demons Fandom Wiki, I found this to be kind of compelling. If true, it explains why Michael is so effective when it comes to cord cutting, but more on that in a bit. Their entry begins with a quote attributed to Lucifer. And it is the most powerful of the angels, the one who defeated most of the great old ones. You mean my brother Michael, the one bound me to this, the ancient black abyss, the only place where you get stripped of God's word. Listen, worm, I don't care if you call him here. In fact, I'd be glad if you did. I'd love a little family reunion. And that quote is attributed to Lucifer. The article goes on, quote, Michael is one of 2 of the oldest true archangels that were created by God and the twin brother of Lucifer. He is the field commander of the army of God, the heavenly host, end quote. Michael is one of the symbols of faith and humility among humans, being known as the Son of God and the left hand of God. He is the enemy of hell and the sword of truth who cuts evil at its roots with his divine flames and purifies the unholy. Being one of the oldest angels, he's one of the most powerful archangels, being the light that alongside the stars watches over human beings, protecting them as a family. Quote, he puts fear into demons, and even Satan recognizes his divine authority as the Prince of Angels and Archangels. Known among Christians as Saint Archangel Michael, he is the one who, alongside Gabriel, stands before the throne of God. Michael appears in the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament of the Christian Bible, being mentioned as an archangel only once during the epistle of Judas Adelpho, who's a brother of Jesus Christ. The quote goes on, indicating the main characteristic of the archangel, humility, in contrast to Lucifer, whose main sin is pride. With all this, it can be concluded that Michael is God's main weapon against the forces of evil, with the exception of Jesus Christ, who is God himself. Michael is humility that prevails over pride. That's why Michael doesn't dare use his own name to defeat the devil, but invokes the name of God. Michael is identified as the angel who drove Satan out of heaven, and at the end of time, he will once again battle in the name of God against the forces of chaos and evil, this time to drive the red dragon and his troops out of heaven for all ever. End quote. Yet another way I found to connect with Archangel Michael that comes from author Richard Webster, and I can't wait to give it a try. Here's what he suggests. One of my favorite methods of communicating with Michael is to walk with him. To do this, I walk briskly for a few minutes and then slow down to a more regular pace. After a minute or 2, I start thinking about Michael and my need to communicate with him. I send him thoughts of love and thanks. Most of the time while doing this, I suddenly become aware that Michael is walking beside me. When this happens, I thank him for joining me and then tell him my concerns. I listen to anything Michael has to say in response and then thank him for his constant protection and help. Sometimes Michael does not appear when I am out walking. If I really need to communicate with him, I then ask him to join me. He goes on, If Michael does not join you the first time you perform a walking meditation, simply enjoy the walk and experiment again on another occasion. The key to success is to remain calm and relaxed. If you are tense and worried that Michael will not join you, you are likely to be disappointed. The best approach is to enjoy the walk and remain unconcerned about whether or not Michael accompanies you. Remember that he is always nearby, even if you do not sense his presence. Consequently, you can send a message to him while you are out walking or at any other time, end quote. I love this idea of walking with the angels. I was out gardening earlier and I was getting pretty exhausted, to say the least. I was covered in dirt. I felt like there should be mushrooms growing from my skin because I was truly covered in like yucky, mulchy, like dirt. It was pretty gross. And I had this like chill wind blow through and a butterfly appear. And I thought that felt kind of like an angel moment. So I promised you I would touch on the cord cutting extraordinaire. With all the research I did on Archangel Michael, I was most shocked by what I did not find, but know to be true in my own life and in the life of my dear friend Monique Pliakis. Michael is a champion cord cutter. As you know from my recent podcast confession, I've been cutting and recutting cords that last month. I did not know it had been Archangel Michael that had been integral to that work. But before preparing this episode, I reached out to my podcast sisters, Monique Pliakis and Karen Rontowski, and this is what Monique sent me back about Michael. Many of my clients utilize him in hypnotherapy when they need help, especially with removing spirit attachments and cord cutting. She texted again later, about 99.9% of my clients call in Michael to assist with cord cutting when they want to call on another to help them. It couldn't be that there's nothing on this online, is what I was thinking to myself. I refined my online search, and sure enough, I found this. It comes from Donna Frasca, who writes for Medium. Quote, "There comes a time when very thick energy cords need to be cut." Amen. And she says, they need to be cut again. I cut them and then allow them to reconnect, and I can't do it anymore. I ask Archangel Michael to assist me in this final cut. Archangel Michael, sometimes I don't know what to do with my life, she says. I ask that you give me the strength to be in the know of what is best for myself. I ask that you always be with me 24/7. I feel safe when I know that you are around. Some people in my life no longer resonate with me on an energetic level. Please assist me in cutting cords from the energies that no longer serve my best interest. Please embrace and protect me during the times I feel frightened. I ask for the courage and ambition to do what I have to do in life. Sometimes my journey is challenging and I second guess my intentions. I ask for the courage and passion to help reach my goals. I ask for inner strength to make the best decisions for myself. Most importantly, I ask that the person I am distancing myself from stays happy and protected and lives their best life as they release the shadows of their past. And so it is. Yes, Donna, and so it is. There are holy sites, no surprise, dedicated to the saint, St. Michael, that are spread all over the Christian world, and one of the most prominent is the island of Mont Saint Michel in Normandy, built in the 8th century. Pilgrims would come to these sites for healing, typically from contact with a spring of fountain. Given that the saint was incorporeal or without a body, contact with relics was not an option. Such veneration of Michael is surprising given that the New Testament forbids angel worship. I didn't know if I was going to use this or not, but I kind of want to. There are a few biblical facts that I'd like to drop about the Archangel Michael. So Michael is the only one in the Bible that is called an archangel. We're told Michael's title in Jude 9. The Greek word for archangel means chief angel or chief messenger. The word archangel isn't used to describe him in the Old Testament, but another angel calls him one of the chief princes. That's from Daniel Daniel 10:13. And it implies that Michael has peers because it's one of many. However, if there are any other archangels, the Bible doesn't tell us who they are. Number 2, Michael stands guard over Israel. In Daniel's last vision, an angel describes how the last days will play out for the Jews. It is at this time that Michael, quote, "the great prince who stands guard over the sons of your people will arise." And that's from Daniel 12:1. The angel also refers to Michael as Daniel's prince. The Bible doesn't say what standing guard entails, but it's very clear that Michael has special responsibilities when it comes to Israel. 3, we touched upon this earlier, but Michael directly opposes Satan. Jude mentions that Michael argues with Satan about the body of Moses, a nod to a Jewish tradition. So he's talking about the dead body of Moses that they were fighting over. Unfortunately, we're not given any more information on what that argument was about. Jude does tell us that Michael wasn't so bold as to pronounce a, quote, railing judgment, and the Greek word for railing is often translated to blasphemous or defaming against the devil. What he does say is interesting enough to merit a fact to itself. I was curious and I dug deeper into this vague description. They fought over the dead body of Moses. Well, this account comes from a banned book of the Bible, and here's a little more about that. Quote, "The story has attracted almost no attention from artists, with one very prominent exception, a fresco of it in the Sistine Chapel. When the chapel was originally constructed, Pope Sixtus IV, his years were 1471 to 1484. He commissioned a group of some of the most prominent painters of the era, Botticelli, Perugino are among them, to paint 8 episodes each from the lives of Moses and Christ. They are paired to show how the church understands the life of Moses, the lawgiver of the Old Testament, as a prophecy of the life of Christ, the lawgiver of the New Testament. So they're kind of used in parallel, right? The final 2, however, called the dispute over the body of Moses and the resurrection of Christ, break that parallelism. Moses, the giver of the old law, dies and stays dead, but Christ, the giver of the new law, rises from the dead. So these last 2 are on the chapel's back wall, which has a large door in the middle under part of each of the paintings. On Christmas Day of 1522, the architrave over the door suddenly cracked and fell just as Pope Hadrian VI had passed under it while processing into the chapel to say Mass. 2 of his guards were killed. This break would eventually lead to the complete deterioration of the paintings around 1575. The dispute over the body of Moses was replaced with the same subject, but done in a very different style, as Hendrik van der Broek had done about 20 years earlier with the resurrection. That is so interesting to me. Okay, one final quote from the Bible, or actually it's a Bible fact, not necessarily just a quote. And that fact is Michael only says 4 words in the Bible. Well, 3 Greek words that are often translated into 4 English words. In Jude 9, Michael says to Satan, "The Lord rebuke you." That's it. So what I learned from the deep dive into the Bible facts is that most of what we've heard is probably derived from extra biblical sources. This might frustrate the curiosity, but then again, God didn't have to reveal everything about Michael, the existence of archangels and all that, but God has graciously given us a glimpse at behind the scenes actions and personalities in that spiritual realm. Still, angels are fascinating, and the mystery of Michael the Archangel will probably give my imagination a lot of exercise for years to come, says the author of that article. Want to know more? That author suggests reading the book of Daniel. This book mentions Michael more than any other book in the Bible. So how does Saint Michael, the psychopomp, swat the buzzing demons of evil with his mighty sword of justice? Okay, this was a fantastic blog post, and it came from Michael Carter. It was published at thetable.co.uk. You'll find the links in the show notes so you can do a deep dive. But here's the toppers. It's the perfect way to end this conversation about Archangel Michael. I mean, I think so. I think I have a couple other tidbits, though, I actually want to add in real time. So that's the title of his blog post. How St. Michael the Psychopomp swats the buzzing demons of evil with his mighty sword of justice. Carter writes, "It's St. Michael's Day tomorrow, and I couldn't let my patron's feast pass without a column in his honor. St. Michael the Archangel was and still is the most famous of all God's angels. He was venerated as the commander of the angelic armies, a holy healer, a protector of high places, and as a companion during our final journey between this world and the next. With so many talents, it's easy to understand why Michael was among medieval Europe's most popular and widely depicted saints. There are sound scriptural foundations to St. Michael's veneration, or to be nerdy, his cult. Michael is mentioned in the book of Daniel as one of the chief princes of the heavenly host and as a special protector of Israel. In Revelations, Michael is God's triumphant champion in the celestial battle between the forces of good and evil. He's also a favorite in biblical apocrypha. Descriptions of Michael in numerous apocryphal texts, such as the Testament of Abraham and the life of Adam and Eve, led to him acquiring a special association with water. His nascent Christian cult in what's now Greece and Turkey was focused on fountains and springs, especially those credited with healing powers. The Archangel was said to have sanctified several of these watery places with an appearance, and Constantine the Great, the first Christian Roman emperor, dated 337, built a shrine to the saint, the Michaelion, in one such location. Veneration of Michael in Western Europe was turbocharged by a series of visions of the Archangel. They are said to have occurred at Mount Gargano in southeast Italy during the 5th century. The holy mountain became a center of his cult in the following centuries. Another apparition occurred in 7th century Rome. During an outbreak of the plague, Pope Gregory the Great witnessed the angel standing atop the tomb of Emperor Hadrian, and the date to that is 664. The pontiff described the angel sheathing his bloody sword, a sure sign of Michael's intervention to save the city from pestilence. The location of the apparition was named Castel Sant'Angelo in honor of the event, a name it rejoices in to this day. The Archangel also graced Northern Europe with visits, the most famous in 709 when he appeared on the summit of a mountainous outcrop off the Normandy coast called forever after Mount St. Michael. A similar vision was the reason for the naming of St. Michael's Mount off the Cornish coast. Both of these holy hills became the location of monasteries. You'll have noticed a common theme here, with Michael prone to making himself manifest in lofty locations. This association between the Archangel and high places endured throughout the Middle Ages. The church atop Glastonbury Tor was dedicated to the saint, so too a chapel on the hillock to the south of Fountains Abbey. Our medieval ancestors would have readily understood the reason. As explained in the Golden Legend, a collection of saints' lives composed in 13th century Italy, Lucifer and his fellow fallen angels inhabited the air between heaven and earth and fly around us like flies. Luckily, the ever-vigilant Michael, resplendent with wings composed of rainbow-colored feathers, was there to swat these foul fiends with his drawn sword. His sculpted image was placed on many a tower to deter those buzzing forces of evil and reassure the faithful of his protective presence. Michael's sacred services were also available for the dying. The Archangel stood ready to do battle with Satan for the souls of the recently departed. Then shall ye all kneel adown and pray to St. Michael. Then he appear to you, and when ye shall pass out of this world, and defend you from your enemies, and bring you to the joys of paradise, wrote John Merck, a canon and later prior of Lilleshall Abbey in Augustinian Monastery in Shropshire in the year around about 1400. Because of these deathbed services, Michael is regarded as a psychopomp, a trusty guide for souls on their journey from Earth to the afterlife. And once a soul has reached the pearly gates, it was weighed on scales held by the Archangel to determine if its virtue was sufficient to warrant passage to everlasting bliss. It doesn't take too much imagination to work out why cemeteries and funerary chapels across Europe were dedicated to Saint Michael. Pilgrims flocked to the saint's shrine at Mount Gargano, many etching their name into the rock close to where Saint Michael was said to have appeared. Among those making the pious journey was a group of Norman knights. Their visit to the holy mountain in the early 11th century was the catalyst for a chain of events that resulted in the Norman conquest of Sicily. Stones chipped from the site of Michael's apparitions at Gargano were disseminated as sacred relics. Two found their way to Battle Abbey, William the Conqueror's great penance for and memorial to his victory at the Battle of Hastings in 1066. The angel's sacred military associations appealed to the warrior elites of medieval Europe. From the time of Charlemagne onwards, Michael was the official protector of the Holy Roman Empire, and the chivalric orders were founded under his patronage. For centuries, artists have found inspiration in Michael's multiple roles: peaceful angel in the glorious 12th century mosaics in a cathedral in Sicily, a holy warrior on multiple late medieval East Anglican rood screens, a weigher of souls in Hans Memling's terrifying 15th century panel painting of the Last Judgment. His feast on the 29th of September commemorates the 5th century dedication of a basilica on his honor in the outskirts of Rome. The English name for the feast is Michaelmas, one of the historic quarter days when the rent has to be paid. It also gave its name to the academic and legal terms that start at this time of year. It's not unusual for there to be a spell of fine warm weather in late September. We now usually call this an Indian summer, but in bygone ages it was labeled Michaelmas summer. Surely an appellation worthy of revival in these times of increased sensitivity to the use of language. It might even be something that both sides in the culture war, self-appointed traditionalists and combative decolonizers, could agree upon. That would be something else to thank Saint Michael for. Okay, I did find a couple other tidbits I cannot help but share. One of them comes from Redditor, where a Redditor user asks, why is Michael portrayed as such a jerk in movies? And the answers were equally humorous. But if you're hankering to see Michael in a movie, here's a quick list. A movie made by Nora Ephron titled Michael that starred John Travolta. There's also a movie called Legion that has Michael squaring off against Gabrielle. And if you love documentaries, find the 2022 documentary titled Saint Michael, Meet the Angel. Thanks for listening to Curious Cat's Season 4 kickoff. It's the perfect excuse for me to say thank you to each one of you for sharing time with me. I love and I appreciate you being on this journey with me. Be sure to hold on tight because after the closing music, you're in for a new feature, the Curious Cat Q. I'm plucking the week's weirdest headlines from the ethers for your listening enjoyment. Until next week, stay curious. I love you. It's time for the Curious Q, a quick rundown of the week's weirdest headlines. Here are the latest reports of unidentified aerial phenomenon, or UAPs, from MUFON. From Roswell, New Mexico, someone reported seeing quote, glowing, floating light orb gliding towards us, stopped, then glided west and then south a few feet above the ground, end quote. This happened October 19th, 2023. From Denver, Colorado on July 28th, 2024. One observer reported, quote, object flew low and going north, slight variation to path, but continuously north. End quote. That reminded me of the UFO UAP sighting from the famous Colorado music venue Red Rocks this summer. This happened June 5th, 2024. A dozen employees said they watched a, quote, a large disc-shaped craft hover above Red Rocks, then vanish. What's even crazier, as reported by one interviewee, is that as soon as we all started noticing it and stopped what we were doing to pay attention to it, the craft tipped at an angle and slowly started moving belly first to the east. This employee reported to the National UFO Reporting Center. They went on to say in that report, quote, then it started fading away until it was invisible. It didn't shoot off into the distance. It simply dissolved into the ether. We all watched it vanish. End quote. The silent hovering object was long, about the size of a 3-story office building, with 3 levels of windows and lights, according to the National UFO Reporting Center. Quote, one of our coworkers suddenly said to us, hey, what was that over there? It looks like a spaceship. End quote. An anonymous reporting employee wrote. Well, I know about the magic and the intense supernatural qualities of Red Rocks firsthand. As I watched a concert in 2023, I saw ball lightning bounce over downtown Denver in the distance and found out after that ball lightning is a phenomenon that many meteorologists reject outright as being a real thing. If you spot something strange in the sky, report it using the link below. Let's turn, though, from the skies to the woods, where BFRO.net, the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, collects reports of the furry guys. There were only a few reports of Bigfoot in July. Here's a couple of them. It's 2 out of 3, so check out the third group encounter using the link in the show notes. The first report came to BFRO in July 2024, but it actually happened in August 2012 near Black Creek in Mississippi. It took them 12 years to work up the courage to file a report. Here's the report from witness Cliff Smith. Quote, my wife and I were riding a 4-wheeler round some woods in a hunting club I was in at the time. We rode down a river as far as we could and came upon a swamp. I unloaded and looked around. After a few minutes of walking the edge, a large pine root weighing around 150 pounds crashed through the tree canopy and landed about 15 feet in front of me. I witnessed the trajectory as it went up probably 45 feet in the air before coming down. I also noted no sane person would be in the middle of a swamp that time of year. Then in mid-November that same year, he had another encounter. Quote, my son and I were deer hunting in the same general area and heard a series of loud knocks coming from the direction of the same swamp. We returned the knocks and in turn got a response. It was too slow to be a woodpecker, the only thing down there that knocks on trees. And then in late December, he had a third run-in. Quote, I was alone, hunting on the western edge of the same swamp. I heard something large splash in the water for over an hour. Only beavers do that here in the wintertime, and this sounded to be from a creature 400 to 500 pounds. This has been on my mind for a while, and I needed to get it said, end quote. In a later follow-up interview, he recalled seeing piles of mussel shells near the creek, and curiously, Bigfoot is known to collect and eat fresh water mussels. The next report, though, comes from Chelan County in Washington State. Quote, the incident occurred in July 1985. 2 witnesses afternoon forest hiking. This happened on a sunny, windless day near Cub Lake, Lake Chelan, the flag stop of Lady of the Lake Ferry. End quote. The witness, according to the reporter, is very credible. This is the fuller account. I'm reading directly from the account. Quote, hiking with my roommate, Lake Chelan. We took a ferry, got off at Flagstop. My friend wanted to hike at Cub Lake, get away from the crowd. Sunny day, no wind, 85 degrees, July or August 1985 or 6. Great hike up to the lake. As soon as we crested out of the forest and into the more level lake basin, we heard the first tree fall. Large tree. We could feel the ground thud from the fall. We walked further in. Around 2 minutes later, another tree fell. Thud. 10 minutes we walked in. Every 2 minutes, another tree fell with the same thud. 5 trees in all. My friend said he didn't feel safe, and I agreed. We decided to turn around and go back down to Lake Chelan to camp for the evening. 5 more trees fell with a thud. My opinion is something didn't want us there and ran us off. End quote. Okay, spooked out of an area by Bigfoot's menacing behavior. This is why I'm scared to camp. If you have some supernatural news you'd like me to share, email an article or your personal account at curious_cat_podcast at iCloud.com. Use the text the show button at the top of the episode to let me know what you think of Curious Q.
Hey, you. Yes, you. Are you looking for a new podcast that appeals to your scientific curiosity, but is also a little bit spooky?
Show me how I died in a past life.
Well, look no further, because this cat is where it's at.
He had concerns about the ethics surrounding AI, feeling they had achieved consciousness.
Curious Cat Podcast examines the shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. Listen every week with your host, Jennifer Holtz, as she and her guests explore what it means to be a soul in a meat suit.
We were healing karma together. They were all kind of predestined to resolve something.
Listen on all your favorite streaming apps and continue the conversation on Twitter at CuriousCatPodCA, or find Jennifer and all her links at Jennifer L. Holtz, spelled HOTES.com.